that was how it transpired on the floor of the Senate yesterday, as captured by our correspondent, Gloria Umezioke. Well, we have this morning joining us on the program the Senate Deputy Whip, Senator Peter Nwebonyi, who represents Ebonyi North Zone of the state, and also he's the vice chairman of the committee, the Senate Committee on Public Accounts. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I want to start with the words of Senate President Bukola Saraki, who says that he's really sad of what is happening in the Senate, in the last couple of weeks, because of its overall negative effect on the integrity, the sanctity, the image, and public perception of the institution. And I'm sure that this gives anyone who has served in the chambers, some cause for concern. You, as Senate Deputy Chief Whip, you've responded to some of the things that he advised in that particular tweet. But I also believe that you must also be feeling this negative effect on the integrity, sanctity, and image of the Senate, and by extension, the National Assembly.
Well, thank you so very much, my dear sister. I want to appreciate you for having me. I will start by submitting that Dr. Saraki, the former Senate President, with respect to him, is one of the leaders I respect in this country. He was once a Senate President, and he understands the rules of the game. But I must tell you here that Senator Saraki is playing politics. Abuse of our rules of business by Senator Natasha. And we expect Senator Saraki, as an experienced leader of the Senate, to caution this erring senator. But he abandoned that.
No, just a moment. Before you go into, cautioning or not cautioning, because he says, let me just read from the very top. He says, I've watched from afar recent developments in the Senate between Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Senator from Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti. It's a development that has made me sad.
I know. I've replied to him. I read it.
Just a moment. Yeah. Because of its overall negative effect on the integrity, sanctity, image, and public perception of the institution. I believe that every person who has had anything to do with the National Assembly, particularly as a leader, member, and worker, should always jealously protect these values which make the institution the numero uno among the three arms of government. That's the first paragraph of that tweet. Is there anything you disagree with there?
I disagree with him. And if you allow me, let me flow naturally.
Yeah, just the first paragraph.
Now, I said he has been a Senate President.
Indeed.
And he has also faced a similar problems. In fact, he was at a point dragged to court.
No, I haven't gone to the other problems,
I'm coming. Allow me to flow.
I will let you flow.
Allow me.
Yes, I'm just referring to the very first
I know.
paragraph.
I'm laying a background.
Yes.
When I'm for interview, allow the guest to flow.
By all means, go ahead.
Thank you. First and foremost, there is no issue between Senator Godswill Akpabio and Senator Natasha. We must get this thing clear. The problem is between Senator Natasha and Nigerian Senate, bordering on our rules. Senator Natasha was assigned to a new seat in line with the circumstances that arose in chambers following the defection of some members of the opposition to the ruling party. And there was need to realign and reallocate our seats. Senator Natasha was given a new seat. She refused to assume the new seat. That is the issue. And that is why the former Senate President would have addressed the issue and not to attack the strong man, being Senator Akpabio. And that's why I'm saying he's playing politics. This is the issue. In law, what we're after is the facting issue. What is the facting issue here? The facting issue here is that Senator Natasha breached Order 6, Rule 2 and 5 of our standing order in the Senate. That is the issue. So we expect him as a leader, we expect him as a former presiding officer to tackle the issue. Has Senator Natasha acted well? When he was a presiding officer, The current Senate president acted the same way. He faulted it. The entire senators faulted it. And being a gentleman, he apologized openly. That is the issue. Senator Godswill Akpabio has no personal issue against Senator Natasha. He has the right, under 6 of our rules, to reallocate seats. And she is not the first person. The reallocation affected 5 senators. Senator Natasha is the 6th senator. Why? What is the problem with assuming the new seat allocated to you? And the rule is that you can't speak on a seat that is not your seat because every seat is tagged. If a seat is tagged for Senator Nwebonyi, you as Senator Aderemodu or any other senator cannot sit on my seat. If you are sitting there, you are not allowed to talk. So this lady or a woman, I don't know, she just chose to embarrass the Senate.
I think that you finally answered my question because
Thank you.
No, just a moment. What I mean, you finally answered my question. I think he was referring to that issue of embarrassment. I was about to ask you. Just a moment. Yes. Don't you feel, as a senator, do you feel embarrassed?
She embarrassed us.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, yes. I've not even asked you anything about what Senator Saraki said in the body of his letter. What I have asked you is in the very first paragraph, and I'm saying that do you agree with anything that he said or disagree with anything he said in the very first paragraph, which I read out to you? But you decided to go down and, talk about the body of what he was referring to. And that's why I was trying to redirect you.
Yeah, because he abandoned the fact in issue. Because in logic, when you argue outside the fact in issue, that is fallacy.
Senator, I do hope that, when questions are asked, we'll deal with the questions directly.
Based on fact in issue.
Yes, before we now go to the body of it. Because, of course, I have seen your response. And, there have been questions with your initial response, which also raised questions about, what transpired on the floor of the Senate yesterday. In your own response to the Senate, because you have gone ahead to talk about some of the things that he raised in his statement, that the Senate president, talking about how public claims made by the senator. He talked about how the right measure to take is to institute an open, transparent, and honest investigation by the Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions. He says both parties must submit to the investigation, fully cooperate with the committee, and stake their claims before it. When he now goes ahead to talk about these other things, you, in response as a Senate Deputy Chief Whip, you say that in Saraki's case, the matter revolved around his official duties as Senate President.
Yes.
And that this is different, that this is not involving the office of the Senate President. Yes. You say, in contrast, what we have before us today is a case of personal, unsubstantiated, and conveniently timed accusations. And you go on ahead to, give body to that. Where, a lot of people are a little curious, are your choice of words? Because you say, if we take Saraki's argument to its logical conclusion, we would be establishing a dangerous precedent. Yes. One where any gold digger or habitual liar can throw out an unsubstantiated allegation and expect the Senate to come to a halt while they are entertained. Yes. Were you referring to your colleague?
Yes, of course. And I'll give you reasons.
You are referring to your colleague?
Yes, Senator Natasha.
A gold digger?
Yes, she is.
And a habitual liar?
A habitual blackmailer. I have facts.
Those are strong words.
I understand by it. She's a habitual blackmailer.
You realize that you're the Senate Deputy Chief.
Of course. I speak with facts, and I can give you when we get there.
So would she have been right in the very first instance, when she felt that her seat was moved, punitively? Because we have been told, just a moment.
No, remove the word punitively.
Let me land.
Because that never happened.
I'm asking questions. I have been told. Senator Aderemodu was seated where you were sitting a few weeks ago, and he told us that sometimes, seats are allocated by ranking. Sometimes, and that senators with ranking, can get some privileges. They're allowed to sit in front.
In line with our rules.
In other words, seats can be assigned as a matter of privilege. Isn't that correct? If that is the case, can it also be assigned as a matter of punishment? That's the question.
It cannot be assigned as a matter of punishment because we don't make punishment in the Senate. All senators are equal. even the Senate president, we are all equal. We just selected him to be our presiding officer. So we cannot allocate seat as a punitive measure. That never happened. I said here earlier that over 5 senators were affected by this seat reallocation. And they all, heeded to it because it's our practice. But my dear sister, Senator Natasha, being the first timer, instead of him to study the rules, because when you go to an organization, for example, you have your association, Media Practitioners of Nigeria. Do you understand? NUG or what have you. You have your rules, even during your meetings. Even in this arrangement, you have your rules. So when you get to an institution, the first thing you have to do is to study the rules. But this is a senator who doesn't want to study the rules. He doesn't want to mind the rules of the institution. And that goes to her person and her character. So let me finish. When the seat was reallocated to her, she was duly informed by the sergeant at arms. In fact, her name was tagged to the new seat. She said, no, I want to sit where camera will be capturing me. You can't say, are you there for camera to capture you? Whereas in any part of the chamber, when you raise your hand to speak, camera will be beamed on you. There is no part of the chamber that is hidden. But this is somebody, like I said, he has something inwards. And I will tell you. I will tell you when we get there.
Well, Senator Nwebonyi...
But the fact is that she violated the rules of the Senate. Simplicity. If anybody is saying she should not violate it, let the person come up with facts.
Well, there'll be questions now, because you have said that this is how you see your fellow colleague. Yeah. I mean, you have written it here. We
are equal.
Yeah, yes, but this is how you see her.
Yes.
So there are questions as to if this is how you see her as Senate Deputy Chief Whip,
yes,
whether that can inform certain actions that you take towards her.
Character is like pregnancy that you cannot hide. Your person as you are is what you are. And you show to the world whom you are. And the world will tell you whom you are. So you can't hide your character.
Can I say this? Is it possible now, because right now, this what a lot of people say is that this initially started as a matter of seats.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But it seems to have gone beyond that.
Yes.
It is now a matter of sexual harassment.
Which is a baseless one.
You say it is baseless.
I was there on the ledge, and I will give you history. I can tell you what you don't know. And I said, and I repeat again, this Senator Natasha is a habitual blackmailer. And people should be very careful with this woman.
I hope
today, let me finish.
Just a moment. I just want you to know that you bear legal liability.
And so what? I can prove it. She has done it to number 1 person, 2nd person, 3rd person. They're all there.
Because those are very heavy allegations.
Of course I am.
I just want you to be aware.
And I will prove it.
Go ahead.
Give me your question.
You said you can prove it. Go ahead and
give me your question. Give me your question. I have to take your question.
You said I was interrupting you. You were trying to finish your statement, before I tried to bring that point of legal liability to your notice.
Yes, and I said I take responsibility because I'm speaking with facts.
Okay. So I'm just saying now, if this is yesterday listening to senators on the floor of the Senate, Senator Bamidele Okpeyemi, who is the majority leader of the Senate.
That's the leader of the Senate.
Yeah, he started his own contributions by saying to the Senate President that, Mr. Senate President, I sympathize with you.
Yes.
I don't know if that captures this, because he says as a man.
And that is the mind of all the senators. We sympathize with him because it is very unbelievable and disheartening for a mother, a woman, a senator of the Federal Republic to stand up trying to prove the impossible, something that never happened. And I will tell you a story. On the said alleged date of sexual harassment, 8th day of December 2023, almost 2 years ago, I drove with Senator Natasha with her husband in the same vehicle from Victor International Airport to the house of the Senate President after attending series of events of the Senate President within New York Town, because we went for his birthday, which was on the following day. Now, when we got to the house of the Senate President, it was quite late. She was tired, complaining of her shoe paining her. So when we entered the house of the Senate President, I remember vividly, she sat down with the husband at the sitting room while we proceeded with the Senate President to inspect his buildings. She was with the husband. I was standing next to the Senate President with Senator Sitangu, with Senator Asokwo, and we're over 20 senators with the wife of the Senate president. How do you think on earth a sane man will give unholy advances to a woman with her husband in the presence of his own wife, in the presence of over 20 senators? This is prima facie falsehood. And let me finish. At the end of the day, I still rode on the same vehicle with Senator Natasha and her husband, Elemo of Warri Kingdom, to 4 Points Hotel. Because the husband is my friend. Senator never raised any issue of sexual harassment because it never happened. The problem is this, which I promised to tell you. Senator Natasha was the chairman of Senate Committee on Local Content, which she felt she was comfortable with. But in Senate, from time to time, committee leadership are changed. Committee leadership are, reshuffled. And her committee was affected. Like every other chairman, she was shifted to Senate Committee on Diaspora, which didn't go down well with Senator Natasha. And instead of her to understand that she's here to represent his people and not primarily to be a committee chairman, meaning that she's putting her personal interest first. She's not putting the interest of Nigerians first. She's not putting the interest of her constituency first. She's putting her personal interest first. And that is the cause of this allegation. And let me tell you, a day before she appeared on Arise claiming this severe harassment, she called a senator. And if you probe further, I will tell you the name. To tell Senate President to return her as chairman Senate Committee on Local Content. Failure to do so, she will disgrace Senate President. The senator called Senate President and said, look at the threat from this lady. The Senate President said, well, let her do what she wants to do. I'm doing my job as a presiding officer. The reshufflement of committee leadership is normal. And she's not the only affected person.
Who was the Senate President?
Senator Sani Musa of Niger State. Okay. You can call him.
Okay. So
Nigeria should know this. Senator Natasha is claiming sexual harassment because she lost chairman of Local Content, and not that she was harassed by Senator Akpoti or any other senator.
Two quick things I want to quickly bring to attention. You say that in the scenario that you were with the Senator Natasha, you
with
rode
her
with her husband, and then when you got to the house, she said she was tired and her shoe was hurting, and so
at a point she sat on the parlor.
So she sat in the sitting room.
Yes.
She didn't go on the tour with you.
She didn't finish the tour with us.
She didn't finish, so she was on a tour with all of you.
With the husband at the back.
Oh, initially she started.
She started with us.
But she did not finish.
She was miles away from the Senate President. I was the next person to the Senate President.
So you don't think that there was a separate tour given to her?
There was no separate tour. There was none. I was there from beginning to the end.
Just quickly, and then also, this issue which you raised about the change of committees. Senator Ireti, in her own TV interview, said, and I also called her, she said that when, these seats were changed, this chairmanship seats were changed, that she spoke, with Senator Natasha about it, and Senator Natasha said she was okay with the change that had been effected. But she was happy with
Did she assume the seat?
Beg your pardon?
Did she assume the seat?
No. I mean the chairmanship seat. You talked about the Senate chair on local content.
But I'm telling you what you can investigate.
Yeah,
that is the cause of this problem.
I'm using the words of a fellow senator.
Yes, but
are you saying I should disregard that testimony?
I didn't say so. That is our opinion. But I'm telling you as somebody in leadership because I know what you don't know.
Okay.
We allocate the leader, the committee leadership. It's a duty of the leadership to find committee leadership to other senators. So she may not have this information, but I have this information, and I'm giving it to you and to all Nigerians that why Senator Natasha is accusing the Senate President of sexual harassment was because she lost chairman committee on local content. She knows that.
You have
and she threatened to do it, and eventually she did it.
Senator Nwebonyi, you have said that, all senators, and even though Senator Okoyemi Bamidele was speaking as a man, he said, man, after he said, I sympathize with you, and then he said, as a man, to be accused of sexual harassment, he went on to, say more.
That is our common ground.
But you say that all senators sympathize with the Senate President.
Yes, let one senator that doesn't sympathize with the Senate President come and say it.
Isn't that where the problem is? Because people have said that in this sort of situation, justice for her, assuming this allegations were true, are going to be very difficult to come by. Just a moment. Just a moment.
Yes.
Are going to be very difficult to come by within the chambers of the Senate.
No, ibi juis, ibi remedium. If you have no right, you have no remedy. If you have no right infringed, you have no remedy. Ibi juis, ibi remedium is an elementary principle of law.
I'm no lawyer.
No jury, no compensation. No right abridged, no remedy.
Let me go to my colleague.
Thank you.
Ayo Makinde.
Well, thank you, Mawkwe. Senator, one thing has played on my mind, even with the comment that Mawkwe read from Senator Eric Tikingibe. I'm just wondering, because a number of people would also be wondering, even from the report that my colleague Gloria Mezuke delivered to us, not a single woman spoke on the floor of the Senate. And it would send a signal to anyone that, hey, maybe the women have been silenced.
There is nothing like that. There is nothing like that. Nobody is silencing the voice of female senators in the 10th Senate under the leadership of...
So how come not a single woman spoke on the floor yesterday?
None. Yes. But speaking is at your liberty. If you want to speak, you indicate. The presiding officer will give you room to speak. You can see where Senator Natasha raised her hand. She was given opportunity to speak because she is a senator. You can't silence her. She's entitled to her opinion as a senator, and that is why she was elected. So well, if any senator wants to speak, the person will indicate, and he will speak.
Perhaps to protect the interest or the image of the Nigerian Senate, as Senator Bukola Saraki has said, don't you think it will be a good idea to at least persuade the women as well in the Senate with you? Because there are just, how many of them? Just 4 of them. To also add their voices so they know that no one is silencing the voice of women, and that the only one that is trying to speak, the Nigerian Senate, overwhelmed by 104 or thereabouts men, are silencing them and don't want them to speak.
I take exception to that, my good friend. Nobody is silencing them. I don't want you to use that
don't you think it's a good idea to persuade
let me respond to you, sir.
Just listen, you're not listening to the question, Senator. Isn't it a good idea for you to say, just a second, Senator, isn't it a good idea for the Senate to say, okay, women, let us protect the integrity of this house together. Please speak to the issue so that Nigerians will know that this is not witch hunting.
Okay, thank you so very much. It may interest you to know that the other 3 female senators have approached Natasha when she violated the rules of the Senate, and they made her to understand that she is doing a wrong path. But Senator Natasha refused, you know. So, and in the Code of Conduct and Privilege Committee, female senators are members of that committee. They were there yesterday, like Senator Ireti Kingibe. She was there in the meeting, and she understands what we are doing, because the thing is very clear. I'm surprised that some of you who are from afar is viewing this matter from a very different perspective. But the fact in issue, like I said here, is that Senator Natasha violated our rules, and the reason behind that we don't know. So she has to apologize to the Senate, because you can't prove impossible. What is wrong, and she cannot remedy it. That is the point. And I want the press to understand this clearly. We are guided by the rules. Okay. If you are saying that she has not violated our rules, then come up and tell me. Then I will cite the rules to you. And video is a fact that is speaking for itself. So we are not silencing the voice of female senators. They are on the same page with others. And moreover, we don't have female senators. A senator is a senator. A senator is a senator, whether you are a man or a woman. When you are elected as a senator of the Federal Republic, you are a person. Just like the other former senator, you are a person. You are not coming Senator, there to represent gender.
We're running out of time, but I just want to ask you just this one question. Help us know how many legislative aides does a single senator have, and what is their ranking? Because I want to believe that if Senator Natasha Akpoti had all the people who were supposed to assist her to get all of these things, it is the assumption of anyone that you can't remonstrate her place, that she must have known these rules because she has legislative aides to guide her. So tell us, how many legislative aides guide a senator, should have guided her, and, you know, until now that these things have gone the way they've gone?
Knowing the rules of Senate is not the duty of legislative aides. It is your duty as a senator, because upon swearing in as a senator, the first thing you are given is the Red Book, which is the order of the rules of the Senate.
So you don't think the legislative aides could have guided?
That is personal. That is personal. That is within her. But for me, I don't need the assistance of my legislative aide for me to know the rules of the game, because my legislative aides are not elected as senators. I am elected as a senator. And before assuming office, I had the opportunity of undergoing some seminars and symposiums wherein I was taught the do's and don'ts. And even if you didn't have the opportunity of attending the seminar, you have the book. So why can't you read the book and understand it? Just like you, the NUJ, don't you have your rules and regulations? Will you expect your PA to teach you the rules and regulations of NUJ? There are things that I must tell my brother. This question is completely out of it, please.
Okay, just quickly, Senator, what is going to be the way forward now? Because we understand that the Senate Ethics and Privileges Committee has thrown out her petition, which she was allowed to lay before the Senate yesterday, yes. Saying that your rules state that if it's not signed by another senator, and yes. Clearly yes. It was saying that from the unanimity which you say that all senators share in sympathy with the Senate President.
Not necessarily sharing in sympathy with the Senate President. We observe our rules.
I'm not done with my question.
Go ahead, my dear sister.
I was saying that given the statement that you made that all senators, are in sympathy with the Senate President, it doesn't appear that any senator is going to be willing to sign that petition with Senator Natasha. Are you saying that she's never going to get heard then by the Senate Ethics and Privileges Committee?
Thank you. My dear sister, we have a standing rule, and I want you to speak to those orders. Order 7, Rule 4, said no senator can sign a petition and present them before the floor of the Senate. Is that true or not?
I'm not a senator.
And I'm telling you, it is true. The same rule says, Order 40, Rule 7, that a matter pending before the court of law cannot be brought before the Senate. Is that true or false? It's true. Please speak to the issue, please. Let us not waste the time of Nigerians with falsehood.
That's what I'm asking you.
I'm telling you now.
How do you intend to? How will this matter then?
That petition is already before the court. That of sexual harassment before the court. What the Ethics and Privilege Committee is dealing on is on the violation of our rules by Senator Natasha, which happened in the open plenary. That's what we're doing. You can't confuse us with sentiment. She's merely appealing to pity. Petition principle. That is what he's playing with. That is fallacy of petition principle in law. She's appealing to public pity. A woman is sexually harassed, everybody will jump into it. We're too big for that. We'll put the facts straight, and I'm giving it to you. And Nigeria should follow the Senate. And let's face other national issues, not dealing with a complete falsehood.
Senator Peter Nwebonyi, I'm sure that your annoyance has been sufficiently
Everybody is annoyed. Every honest man is annoyed in Nigeria because of that of this woman. This is not the first time she's accusing somebody.
You say
this
every
is a woman that,
man.
let me tell you, this is a woman that accused Reno Mokri of sexual harassment. Let me finish. When this young man was in the US, when evidence was brought that
Senator, we're totally out of time, I'm afraid.
No
I have to say thank you. I have to say thank you for coming on the program
God
at this point.
You,
Senator Peter Nwebonyi is the Senate Deputy Chief Whip and also the Vice Chairman, Senate Committee on Public Accounts. He's also the Senator representing Ebonyi North of Ebonyi State. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Well, we'll be back with another matter. Laola Akonde joins us shortly, so please stay with us.